For generations, the historical baseline for parenting was authoritarian. If a child expressed a difficult emotion, the response was usually some version of put on a smile or else. In these homes, connection was sacrificed for control, and a child's inner world was something to be managed, not understood. When those feelings are actively punished or ignored, they don't disappear, they just get pushed down. This often manifests in adulthood as a desperate need to stay busy, using workaholism, a glass of wine, or a phone screen to keep those suppressed emotions from rising to the surface. In trying to break this cycle, many modern parents have overcorrected. Instead of ignoring emotions, we've become scared of them. We see a child's disappointment as a crisis to be solved, looking for any quick distraction or exit to keep the peace. Our own lives are now filled with instant hits of dopamine and ease, which has lowered our tolerance for the messy, inconvenient frustration of a child. We often let a child's raw emotions dictate household decisions simply because we cannot stand the friction of their whining ourselves. By attempting to heal our own childhood wounds through constant accommodation, we have accidentally created an environment where the child is left to navigate the family ship without any steady leadership. This overcorrection has turned childhood into a project optimized for constant happiness. We mediate every friendship, curate every play space, and rush to fix every minor sadness before the child even has time to feel it. However, emotional regulation is a skill that must be practiced to develop. When a parent constantly rescues a child from negative feelings, the child never learns how to manage disappointment, which often manifests as a deep-seated anxiety once they reach adulthood. As this chart illustrates, a plummeting tolerance for discomfort is often linked to a sharp rise in anxiety. When distress is treated as a toxic threat to be avoided, the brain learns that any negative feeling is a sign of impending danger. In this context, anxiety is the panicked act of running away from a feeling that has been labeled intolerable. It is the internal response to an emotion that we were never taught how to sit with. A parent's objective is to build a child's capacity to sit in the turbulence of their own feelings, rather than trying to prevent the storm from happening in the first place. Parenting requires a focus on two specific tasks. The first is setting boundaries to provide safety, and the second is validating emotions to show the child their internal experiences are real. There is a common misconception that a boundary is a request, like telling a child not to grab an iPad that's sitting on the kitchen counter. A true boundary is an action a parent takes that requires the child to do nothing. Instead of asking the child to resist an addictive device, the parent simply puts the iPad in a high cabinet before the conflict even begins. This allows for sturdy leadership, where a parent can hold two things as true at once. They can enforce a necessary limit while simultaneously accepting that the child is allowed to be angry about it. When a child screams in response to a boundary, it isn't a sign of failure. It is the specific moment where they are being forced to grapple with a feeling they don't like, the very definition of practicing emotional regulation. Consider the common scenario of a child coming home and saying they are the only one in class who can't read a chapter book yet. Think of this insecurity as a dark bench in the middle of a garden. The child is sitting there, feeling inadequate, jealous, and completely alone in their struggle. Most parents instinctively try to yank the child off that bench. We offer sunny distractions, telling them they're better at soccer anyway, or we try to logic the feeling away by saying it isn't a big deal. This forced positivity signals that the dark bench is a place the parent is too scared to go. It leaves the child feeling their deepest insecurities are so toxic they must be faced alone. The more effective approach is to sit on that dark bench with them. By saying, "I believe you, tell me more," you show the child their distress is survivable. Sharing that space diffuses the child's panic. It expands their emotional container, teaching them that they can sit with hard things, which eventually creates more authentic space for happiness later on. No one can stay on the feelings bench perfectly. There will be nights when you are tired and frustrated, and you will inevitably snap at your kids or lose your temper. A perfectly attuned parent would actually leave a child ill-equipped for life. Children need to experience moments where their needs aren't immediately met, or where relationships feel tense, to learn how to bounce back. After an outburst, it's vital to separate your identity from your behavior. You are not a monster because you yelled. You are a good parent who had a moment you aren't proud of. Wallowing in shame is a freeze response that prevents growth. Once you separate your identity from the mistake, you find the momentum to step back into the relationship and fix what was broken. This process of taking ownership is called repair. It involves going back to the child, apologizing for the outburst, and explaining the yelling was about your own struggle to manage your feelings, not their fault. An apology doesn't change what happened, but it changes the narrative of the memory. Instead of a chapter that ends with just isolation and confusion, the child's story now ends with connection and safety. This teaches a child that relationships can survive conflict. They learn that even when things go wrong, they have the power to return to the table and make things right. By letting go of the need to keep them constantly happy, we can provide the sturdy leadership they actually need, raising adults who are capable of handling the dark benches of life without running away.